Hello, Talkin Twolves fans. Welcome into a wonderful show with my friend Mike Baltz, season ticket holder who just witnessed his first win for the Minnesota Timberwolves as a season ticket holder. Mike, how you doing, buddy? It's great to see ya.
It feels good to get one against a good team who was mostly whole. I know they didn't have Bane tonight, but we didn't have Cat. We didn't have
Yeah.
Jaden. We didn't
No,
have TP.
we didn't have
So
Jordan McLaughlin.
who is a plus
McLaughlin.
minus king. So
Yeah,
like that makes sense.
right. Yeah, it was a hell
So
of a
yeah.
game.
Yeah, like start to finish. I mean, like it was a poor start in the very beginning from the Wolves. Then after that, it kind of just like felt like we were gonna win. Like the rest of
Oh,
the way. Even when it was a little sketchy towards the end, it kind of just felt like we had this one.
well, before we really dive into how we felt like we had this one, because the fourth quarter, third quarter, second half was amazing, right? I mean, that was a fun second
Yeah.
half. Before we get into that, let's just kind of set the table and let's talk about what has occurred before this game, right? Karl-Anthony Towns, he has an injury. He's going to be out for what, 4 to 8 weeks? Who knows? 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing serious. It's not a season ending injury. It wasn't an Achilles, which we all thought it was. So we're very positive about that. But they had to play tonight's game without him, right? And they've
Yeah.
been struggling, I'd say, for the last 2 weeks. So tonight's game against Memphis was a definite statement game, if you will. Like Memphis, Anthony Edwards in his post game said, Memphis is our rival. Like they get up for this game. So you knew the team was going to play hard, but what were they going to be like without Karl-Anthony Towns, right? That was the big question. And tonight's game was phenomenal to watch. You were there. You are a season ticket holder. You have amazing seats. I've sat in them, and there it was a fun game to be there. So first off, tell me what was your experience at the game, your first win viewing from your season tickets. What did you enjoy about it? Well, what were your favorite points in the game? Right?
Well, I mean, one thing. So I was talking to a coworker before leaving because I had to work today, and then go directly to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a coworker, and he's like, "Yeah, I think we're probably gonna lose. Sucks." And I was like, "Well, you got to consider that yes, Cat's out, but
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards is going to show up against Memphis. And that looks like two things. Number one, he's really efficient and awesome. Or number two, he's really inefficient and awesome. One of those two things is going to happen because he's going to come out to play with Ja,
Mm-hmm.
which not only did we see him be efficient and awesome, he made some good passes. He was blocking people all over the court. And at the end of the game, when John Morant got double teed up and got sent out of the game, he dapped up Morant in a show of respect because there's a real rivalry there.
Oh yeah.
And then also on side notes, I was like, it's a Kyle Anderson revenge game. Don't forget that. And
Oh
Kyle Anderson isn't the kind of revenge game where he's gonna like drop 30 on you. It's the kind of revenge game where he's gonna be on point, yelling at everyone to be in the right position on defense, the right position on offense. And he did make some bad passes, a couple bad turnovers, but in general, slow mo came to play.
yeah.
And besides that, I mean, like I think people just stepped up, and I mean, like it's hard for me to start anywhere but the surprise start of Wendell
Yes.
Moore Jr.
All
Because
right.
I got to the game again. I just came directly from work. It was terrible traffic driving the way to work because it's just all sloppy outside in Minnesota right now,
Yeah, there it
and
snowed yesterday.
didn't have a chance to read or see anything. And maybe even if I had, I would not have known. I looked at the court and I was like, did they start our rookie? Is that
Yeah.
our rookie? And I'm with three dudes who kind of know basketball, and all of them were like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, I think we started our rookie who literally has played like a couple minutes of garbage time this season.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. I mean, he got some nice little stats. And not only did Chris Finch have the balls to start our rookie, but he was the point man on John Morant,
Yes.
which is a pretty big deal.
To start the game. He started the game and he guarded Ja and he played very well. Held him. The first quarter started off a little rough. I mean, we were down by 10 points, I think, at the start of the first quarter, but then we went on a 10-0 run to end the quarter, which was really good. And I was impressed by that, but Wendell Moore Jr.'s real time to shine was third quarter for me, where you really notice that like he's in the game, right? He was over the jitters of being his first start as an NBA player. He was well accustomed to the pace of the game, and in the third quarter, he made some plays. He made some unbelievable. I think he had a blocked shot in that third quarter.
He had a three.
He had a three, and he had a really easy layup. It was awesome, and it's exactly what the excitement that you want to see from a rookie on the T-Wolves to come out with his first start and have that kind of an impact. And I'll say that he had no mistakes in the game that you would expect a rookie to make.
Would you say that he was a little Tyus Jones-esque?
Yeah.
Playing against Tyus Jones?
Yes.
That's kind of how I felt. Like, he's not as good of a facilitator as Tyus yet, but he was in there playing good rotation minutes, which is exactly what we need of him. And also to your point a little bit about the third quarter, the Minnesota Timberwolves won a third quarter tonight, which we have this year been a first and fourth quarter team.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means we're a first quarter team and then we close it out in the fourth quarter. And sometimes it means we're a first quarter team and then in the fourth quarter, we're getting a bunch of garbage time points, and it looks like we were the best team in the fourth quarter. But tonight, we were kind of like steady, like outside of the like lame duck start at the very beginning, we kind of brought it together. And I did look at Twitter a little bit after the game, and the general consensus was like those fouls on Gobert. I mean, like, it can't be overstated enough when you're rim protector, because like in the first half when Gobert was out there, it was very clear that John Morant was afraid. Mm-hmm. And that was literally the reason. Like, people asked, why did you do this trade? Why would you ever trade all these picks for Rudy Gobert? Because there was this guy, John Morant, who in the playoffs seemed to be able to do everything against us that he wanted to. And in the first quarter, even the second quarter, John Morant kept pulling up for floaters. John Morant does not pull up for floaters. He goes to the rim or he passes out to the open man. He does not pull up for floaters. And he was doing that in the first quarter and a half. And that's because Rudy was there. And then what happened is, again, going back to the Twitter thing, the general consensus is most of those fouls on Rudy were bullshit. And the crowd knew it. And the crowd was, giving it to the refs there in the stadium. But like sometimes the crowd gives it to the refs and it probably is a foul because they don't know what they're talking about or whatever. But there was some bullshit. And what happens is your center gets 4 fouls and now he has to sit the bench. And then when he's in the game, play conservatively as our rim protector. And that was definitely apparent when they kind of came back late in the game, that there was times where Rudy was trying to play conservative so he couldn't, do what he normally does.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that is something that was apparent, and hopefully the refereeing gets corrected a little bit, and then we kind of find some groove here because it really felt good tonight overall. I wanted to read on the Wendell Moore thing. I just read this to you, but the John Krasinski tweet, which is Wendell Moore Jr. found out 10 minutes before the pregame meeting that he was going to start and guard Ja tonight. Had no idea he would play, let alone start. Wendell says, once he told me the news, I was beyond excited. At the same time, I knew I had to lock in and had a job to do. And that feels exactly like what he did. Like that's what he did tonight. He came in, he didn't try to take over the game. He just tried to like play within the game.
Right. Do you now? So let's continue on this. Do you think that was Chris Finch coaching style to tell Wendell Moore that to not tell him that he's going to start maybe yesterday or after practice yesterday, right? I mean, he didn't want to be in his head. He wanted Wendell Moore to come into tonight's game going, I'm probably going to get a few extra minutes because Cat's out. And who knows how the lineup is going to work. But to have the coach come to you and say, you're going to start tonight, it's your first start in the NBA, and you're going to guard the best player on the court. How is that a good coaching decision? Obviously, it turned out as a good coaching decision by Chris Finch. But yeah, I was very interested in it because I had no idea that Wendell Moore Jr. was going to start tonight. I figured we would see him quite a bit, but I kind of thought Jalen Noel would start, and you'd see Kyle Anderson play the 4 spot and fill Cat's role or fill his spot. But I was very surprised to see Wendell Moore Jr. in the starting lineup guarding Ja Morant, and it was a cool thing, and the kid played to the level of the game, right? I mean, he was impressive tonight.
It looked like he was playing at his own pace and like within a system. It did not ever look like a lot of times with rookies. It looks like they're rushing. It looks like they're slow. It looks like they're lost. I didn't really ever feel that. I felt that about some other veteran players on our team, but like I never felt like he was lost out there.
Yeah.
And that's just from looking at it live. And so it's a little different than watching it on TV or whatever. But that's kind of how I felt. And like to me, I assumed that like maybe Luka Garza was going to get some major minutes tonight because they pulled him up. He's been on fire in the G League. Wendell Moore, you haven't really heard much about. You know,
he's gotten garbage minutes for the whole season. He's never played meaningful minutes in the game. It was very shocking to see him in the starting lineup, but
yeah,
it was more shocking to see him execute and play at such a high caliber.
You could see it in his positioning, like when he was on defense guarding Ja. A lot of times, sometimes he was just straight man up, and sometimes he was clearly like leading him to his left or right, knowing that Rudy Gobert, Kyle Anderson, whoever was on behind him to the right, to the left. Okay, so I'm going to lead him here. He's not going to beat me this way. And if he beats me that way, I got another guy, and I got to rotate to my next defender, or my next defensive assignment. And it felt good, and maybe we like to think as Timberwolves fans that because we've seen so much bad coaching and whatever, that maybe it's a Tibbs thing, but sometimes Tibbs was right. And I think that the Tibbs way would be to not play a rookie at all until you absolutely have to. Tibbs could have the number 11 pick in the first round, and he would sit that player for a year and a half and let him fester and get angry and then bring him in. And maybe there's not the same level, but like maybe Finch is just like, okay, I see the talent here. I see the intelligence, the basketball IQ, but I'm going to sit this kid until we need him. And we're going to see what happens. And, that's part of coaching too, is just kind of figuring out how to like play these players. Because there's guys like Anthony Edwards where you can't just sit him for half a season. Like he's too talented, he's too cocky, all of it. But there's also players that like want it and are good players and they're smart and they've got the basketball body, but maybe they just need to like have a little motivation to get them out on the court.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It looked great tonight. I'm not saying it's going to look great forever because maybe that motivation wanes. But we also don't know if he's ever going to start a game again. We could just be talking about this as the Wendell Moore Jr. game in 10 years. Like, remember that time he started randomly on a Wednesday night?
Do you talk about Josh Okogie starting ever? No. Do you talk about other starts by the other T-Wolves of first round picks of the past? No. Other than Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. No, you don't. It was surprising. I was surprised that he got the starting nod, that Finch trusted him, and that he performed. He proved that the stage isn't big enough for him, right? In all of the cliches. He proved that he could guard the best player on the court and give 100% effort and make the right decisions. The third quarter tonight was really an awesome moment for a rookie, no matter what team you're on. But for him to come out and have that kind of impact in the third quarter when the T Wolves were it was a tight game, contention wise, points wise. He made some plays. He was the player that kept the T Wolves in that game. If he wasn't on the court, what would have happened, right? Who would have made the plays that he made at that point in the
Austin
game?
Rivers, not anyone. And the thing is, too, like, I think that like, from Finch's perspective, he wanted to keep like Rivers and Noel and these guys that are playmakers off the bench to give us some bench playmaking. Because, I think
Mm-hmm.
that one thing that he's learned too is like, we always had this thought that, like, before we got Rudy, that it's like, okay, Ant and D'Lo kind of need to switch off as like our main scorer playmaker. But what we've really, we've had a couple bad games, but like
Yeah.
before that, we were on a little mini streak, 5 games. And in that time, a lot of that mini streak was Ant and D'Lo playing together. Sometimes Ant, D'Lo, and Jordan McLaughlin playing together and having these like three playmakers. And he's spreading it out. And one thing about starting Wendell Moore is like he can bring the ball up, but like that's maybe not what he's best at. What he's best at is running around, screening, being open. And tonight he was 3 of 6 from the field.
Mm-hmm.
He had 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. I'll take it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we needed. And that's all in 20 minutes. He really wasn't. The fact that we're spending this much time talking about it is both because it's surprising and both because we felt his impact watching the game. And if you can do that in 20 minutes, then you did it right.
Yes. He played so efficiently tonight, and just watching the game from home, he made the right passes every time. Not one time did I see him want to try to make the hero play. No, he was running around, setting screens, cutting to the basket, making the right pass, getting his teammates open, but he also took the shot when he needed it. That three-pointer in the third quarter was awesome. Was that his first three-pointer in the NBA? I don't know for sure if that was, but that was the biggest three-pointer he's made so far, and it was a statement. Like,
Yeah.
he
It
proved.
came at a time when they were threatening to come back.
Yes, and it was awesome. It was great to see. On top of that, so let's talk about other things. The whole game in itself was super fun to watch. The first quarter started out slow, and then the T Wolves kind of stepped up, right? And I think the biggest player to have stepped up in that second quarter, third quarter, besides Wendell Moore Jr. was Jaden McDaniels, or not Jalen
Jalen
Noel.
Noel,
Yes,
the
he
cool
was
kid. No,
amazing.
I was talking to Steve Wilson was at the game with me. I have season tickets with him. Shout out Steve.
Shout out
He
Steve.
I was talking. We always call Jaden McDaniels like the bad kid because he kind of looks like the bad kid, the bully at school. He had that
Mhm.
reputation coming out of college, and he gets called for fouls way too often because he looks like a bad kid. And if he's the bad kid, then we call Jalen Noel the cool kid because he just always looks like he belongs out there. Like he's just kind of like playing with the big boys, even last season a little bit. And now this season, he just looks like he deserves to be out there. And he really came through for us tonight.
I kind of thought that he might get the starting nod tonight with Cat being out. You play a
I
little
think
bit
he
of small
wanted
ball to
to.
start, right?
I think he wanted to spread out that playmaking. Like he knew that the bench needed it.
Yeah.
And, you know, him, Noel, and Edwards, honestly, don't get credit. And Edwards isn't a perfect playmaker yet. He's got some work to do because with his talent, he can be better. But
Hmm.
like he also doesn't get credit. Like he's been on some of these Wolves teams where like he's throwing perfect cross court passes to Josh Okogie and players that can't hit a three if their life depended on it. And you know, it's gonna get better, but like it's there. The seed of it is there. And with Noel, like I thought a couple times tonight that like as much as it was cool to see him be like second on our team in scoring,
Hmm.
like the really impressive part was that he made some good plays where like he didn't shoot. Because I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the rap, like the downside to Noel last season, and you know what you heard of him is that like if he's got the ball, he's probably going to shoot it. That's the end of the possession, is that he's going to somehow shoot it. And tonight he made some passes and he like made it happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, tonight he played very efficiently. He played like he was the scorer on the team that was going to make up for not having Karl-Anthony Towns, and he
And he
succeeded.
did.
Yeah,
I think he
he.
beat, because what do you have, 24? Uh yeah. And I mean
Mhm.
that's above Cat's, scoring average. He got a couple 5 rebounds, 2 assists. And also as I'm looking at this, I'm noticing, I don't know where you want to go next. It's
Well,
your podcast. But Anthony
it's
Edwards, 5 steals, 3
yes,
blocks. Can I tell you that being there live, it felt like he had 10 steals and
yeah.
25 blocks. That's how it felt tonight. And he just kind of was like playing it. And like there was a point in the very first quarter when he just let his man go. I can't remember who it was. And they got this easy layup. And I was like, and tonight of all nights, you can't just give them like you can't just forget about your man off ball on the weak side and let him get a layup. But then he comes back and played some of his best D this season
Hmm. He
against a good
was
team.
he was amazing tonight. Anthony Edwards, I thought he had 4 blocks. I think he had 3. They were credited with. The stat screen I got isn't telling me this, and I'm sick of it. I gotta find a better. I gotta find a better website.
I
But
had
yeah, I
3
think
blocks on
he
ESPN,
had
but
3.
I believe it. I believe, like I said, it felt like he had like 7 blocks.
Right. He played amazing defense. He was all over the court. I really didn't feel like I noticed him taking bad shots. There were a couple missed threes, right? But he played very, very well. Fourth
He played
quarter,
within the
he was the
game.
closer. Fourth quarter, it was the Anthony Edwards show, right? And that's what the T-Wolves
Absolutely.
need. Well, they don't have Karl-Anthony Towns in the lineup. Because who else is
Yeah.
going to close out the games?
It
I'd
was
put
it
it
was
in
him, Rudy, and do you know
Jalen.
who the plus minus leader was on the team?
No, because I got a stupid box score
All right, I'll give
from
you a hint. We haven't talked about him yet.
the. We haven't talked about him yet.
The plus minus leader on the team. I mean, maybe we've mentioned him, but like not really.
I want to say Naz Reid, but I don't think that's true. Uh it wasn't D'Lo, was it? Because D'Lo played like garbage, in my
D'Lo
opinion.
was plus 18.
He was plus
His
18, but he was 5 of 15, or
six
did he
of
get
16.
six of
Yeah.
16? I missed this.
But 5 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals,
Yeah.
only 2 turnovers on 10 assists. That's not bad. 5 to 1 assist to turnover.
He didn't
Um,
play bad other than
5
not making
fouls.
shots. He took a
Yeah,
lot of threes that he missed tonight.
it's true. Like, but the fact is, if like, I mean, I was listening to was I think it was Dan Moore. I can't remember. I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about how like last season when D'Lo had his best stretch of basketball, it was like January to February when we like turned it on and went from like a sub 500 team to an above
Mhm.
500 team. And there's always this thought that like the Timberwolves go as D'Lo's offense goes. And
Mhm.
tonight we found out that the Timberwolves can win against a good team, even if D'Lo's offense isn't exactly perfect. We have the bodies, and that was the other thing I told Nick at work. Is I said, hey, like the thing is, we're kind of built for injuries. We've got a lot of guys, and Finch is creative. And so I don't know if they're going to bring up Garza for minutes. That's kind of what I expected, or what they're going to do. But like, we have a deep team. So like, it obviously hurts Cat. I mean, like, do you think Steven Adams plays the minutes that he did tonight if Cat's out there? Because they had to take Steven Adams off the court in the playoffs because of Cat.
Yeah.
So tonight they got to like put this guy that's this big lumbering giant, and I love Steven Adams as a like person and a player, but like, you know, I mean, what has Cat done to every center that's been out there against him? Like he's just roasted them. And so they got to play Steven Adams a lot tonight, which hurt us in the rebounds. Did you see the rebounding discrepancy, by the way?
Yes.
It's amazing
That's
we won this game.
that's
It
another
was
thing to maybe talk about because yes, it was
it was
amazing.
59. Memphis had 59 rebounds and we had 29. And we won the game. That's insane.
I it's crazy that they allowed what did Gobert had 1 rebound, Mike. One
Do you
from
know
your
why?
center.
Because he was actually playing great defense, but when he's the only one playing defense out there, sometimes then he can't rebound. And
Yeah.
did Rudy, how many blocks did Rudy get?
One.
One?
Yep. I got the
Again,
box
it
score
felt
up.
like he had four, but like also like I know he got called fouls. He got called some terrible fouls.
Mhm.
Um that again was unfortunate because he can't play aggressive when he's got 4 fouls early in the third quarter. I'm rewatching it. Noel just hit a big shot. He was big shot dude tonight. I thought he was gonna go for 30.
Yeah. Noel, I thought the same thing. I thought that Jalen was going to have a big game tonight, and I think he came out of the gate and played that way through the whole first 3 quarters. It was just in the fourth quarter Anthony Edwards kind of took over, but I think Jalen was on fire, and he could have carried the team had they needed to. Because in my opinion, I've watched every game this year. Uh, Jalen has been the most impressive T Wolf this year. I'm really impressed by how well he has been a scorer, but how well he's been just taking the right shots, finishing at the basket. He's gonna miss open shots. Everybody's gonna miss an open shot unless you're Steph Curry, but he has been the best T Wolves player uh, to start the year, in my opinion.
He's definitely not perfect, but he he I mean like he wasn't out there when we went down 11-2 at the beginning because he's a bench player.
Yeah.
And he came in and he played his minutes and he's not He's not yet even probably league average on defense, realistically speaking. But
No.
it's clear if you're watching him this season that he's trying. Like Cat and Ant have all of the athleticism and height and ups, everything they need to be league wrecking defenders. Noel
Mm-hmm.
doesn't quite have that. He's not strong enough. He's not fast enough. He's not big enough. But he tries. Whereas like Cat and Ant at times this season are just letting free baskets go to the hoop. Here you go. Have a layup. I got bored. I lost track of things.
Mm-hmm.
Noel will let occasional things go, but like it looks like he's trying out there. And that means everything because that's exactly what we need. And it's a compounding problem. Like imagine you're at work and you got a team of 10 guys and 7 of them are just kind of like, and 2 of them are trying pretty hard but suck. And then one of them is trying hard and is good. Eventually that person who's trying hard and is good is going to be like, should I even try if 70% of our team aren't? And I feel like at times this season, that's been like Rudy,
Yeah.
that's been Kyle Anderson, like where they're making a mistake where you're like, why did they do that? And it's like, because they're looking around and they're like, am I the only one trying on defense? Like, can you guys just be in position? Which again is circling back was what was so impressive about WMJ.
Mm-hmm.
He needs a nickname, man. Wendell Moore Jr. is like
Yeah.
too much. It sounds like a butler in a superhero movie. He needs a nickname. And maybe it's the butler. Throwing
Ooh.
that out there. The butler,
Wendell Moore
man.
Jr.
He's serving it up.
He
He's
is.
got your back.
He was serving it up. He's always got your back. I like that. We're gonna call him the butler.
The butler, man.
I like it. I agree. I mean, that's exactly the type of player, and that kind of comes to the next. The next thing I want to talk about is the effect of the team without Karl-Anthony Towns. And tonight's game was a team win, right? You had players. You had Jalen Noel step up and be that scoring punch that he has been off the bench for the majority of the year. But tonight's game was really important that he brings that punch because you're missing it from Karl, right?
Yeah.
And then so not having Karl for the next few weeks, 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, whatever. How does that affect it? What did you see tonight that's going to make the T-Wolves think that they're still a contender? Are we the team that now that we don't have Karl-Anthony Towns, are we the team that other teams think is an easy win? Or is this what springboards the players on the T-Wolves to kind of step up and maybe realize their talent and buy into what Chris Finch is trying to do on offense?
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be a springboard from the point that people like Wendell and maybe Garza, maybe some other guys that are getting limited minutes already are going to get more, like Nas or whatever, and they're going to step up. I think with our backs against the wall, our superstar, our most consistent player, if we're honest, we may like Ant more, we may like anyone more, but like Cat's our most consistent player. As as much as sometimes on defense, he's a liability. Sometimes with fouling, he's a liability. But I think backs to the wall, people getting more opportunity, people bonding together, it makes us a better team. I think you're foolish, and I've seen the Twitter takes and everything to say that we are a better team without Cat. He is our most consistent player. And not only that, he's not Steph Curry, but he has 70-80% Steph Curry effect on the other team when he's on offense, where like they are so worried about this guy that they're going to send 1 or 2 of their better defenders at Cat to stop him, which if we play the right way and everybody moves, we can exploit that. And that's something we lost. And it was interesting tonight to see I feel like this game, more than any game this season that I can think of, we saw Cat doubled. Or sorry, Ant doubled.
And yeah.
Like I haven't seen it with this much ferocity until tonight, this season at least. There were times last year that he looked a little like befuddled. He looked kind of like confused out there when they sent the double, but it was like few and far between. It was usually when he was already hot and everything. Tonight they were kind of sending it at him early, and occasionally they were mixing it up, but like occasionally, fairly often, they doubled him. And that's something that when you have Cat, Ant, D'Lo, Jalen, all these creators and scorers out there, they're more hesitant to double someone like Ant. They're
Mhm.
more like most teams at this point are like, this guy hasn't fully proven himself. And if he's going to score 32 and beat us, he's going to score 32 and beat us. But also, we're more than willing to let him, we're going to put one of our better defenders on him, but we're not going to send two guys. And tonight they were able to send two guys at him. And thank God he dealt with it in a great way.
Yeah.
But like with Cat out there, they're not going to be able to just double team Ant. Like, I mean, I feel like we would destroy teams if they're double teaming Ant outside the 3-point line. Then Cat has to have a defender on him 28 feet away from the basket. I mean, what are you going to do? There's going to always be an open layup if you do that.
Mhm.
And so that's the challenge. But again, you can now got a team that's playing with their backs to the wall, and that's a good thing in some ways.
Yeah, I think that this game was a statement game for the T-Wolves going forward because they had to let the other teams know we're not done. Just because we don't have Cat doesn't mean we're not going to be competitive. And
Yeah.
Wendell Moore Jr. stepped up, but Jalen Noel stepped up. Anthony Edwards showed that he's the closer in the fourth quarter tonight, and he can drive to the basket and finish. And that was
Taking
awesome.
it right at
them.
JJJ, taking it right at Steven Adams, just going into the heart of the defense. I mean, Steven Adams makes anyone look big. By the way, side note, just for fun.
Yeah.
There's a moment, I want to say third quarter, but I can't remember, where Steven Adams ended up on the ground because he flopped.
Yeah.
And they called a foul. And if you just turn that broadcast all the way up, you might hear me yell, there is no one on our team that could push him over physically. Mm-hmm. Because there is no one on our team, maybe Rudy if you took a running start, that could push Steven Adams over physically. I mean, that's the definition of a flop. And that was the kind of fouls that we were getting tonight. But these guys are going to have to play through it. They're going to have to figure out a way without Cat. And I think it's a good thing. And I think there's going to be talk that we're better without Cat if we go on some kind of a win streak. I don't believe that. And I also think that Cat is the kind of guy who's going to hear it. And maybe it's for the best because when he comes back, he's going to be like, oh, we're better without me. Let's go. And, hopefully we can get healthy with the rest of the team. I mean, the last two games that we lost, it's been very, very, very apparent that we missed Jaden McDaniels.
Yes.
Who, on both offense and defense, because it really felt like he was starting to figure out not fouling.
Yes.
Just starting. He still gets a really bad whistle because he's a bad kid with mean eyebrows. He's got those mean eyebrows.
I just think it's because he has that monotone look all the time, and then they think that he's is he playing mischievous or deviant against the other team, or is he just McDaniels? He just goes, and when he goes to the hoop, he's taking it to the hoop. Like the way he runs is amazing. He doesn't have a malicious intent, but he has the way he threw it down this year was very malicious. Every dunk that he had was powerful, but that was him showing that I can score on you. I don't think that was him trying to you
It's like
know,
my favorite quote of the preseason is when he was like, "Yeah, coaches are just like, you're really tall. You could just dunk it. So I'm gonna try to do that more this year." And he's
it's a
just been
good
doing
one.
it.
He had.
But I mean, like, I will say this though: there's times where, like, in a vacuum, in the pandemic, there's no fans in the stands. There's a time when away from the ball, that person doesn't even have the ball, let alone are shooting. It would sound like this in a vacuum. And he gets called for a foul.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, he or Ant or Cat gets absolutely body checked and there's no call.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about when I say, like, McDaniels gets a bad whistle. Like, it's out there on Twitter, even from non-Timberwolves fans. It's like he looks mean, and that makes a difference. Like, people assume that everyone that wears glasses is smart. It's a
Mm.
psychological thing. And sometimes you learn those people are dumb, and sometimes you don't. And sometimes they are smart. But, like, people assume that everyone that wears glasses, like, as if they're tied together, is an intelligent person. And
Yeah.
that's not always the case. And it's not always the case that people that have a face like Jaden McDaniels are mean. And he might be mean. But sometimes he's not actually trying to be mean, nor did he commit a foul and he's getting them called, whereas other people aren't. I mean, even tonight, there was a couple times where, like, there was a foul on one side that the fans booed about, and then on the other side, Anthony Edwards got triple checked by people under the hoop and no one called anything. And it's like, I don't know what the dude can do for a whistle. I get that he's built like a linebacker or maybe a tight end, but, like, come on. That's a foul.
Yes.
And
I
it's,
think
it's got to be frustrating for a 21-year-old kid to go in under these against these men and not get those calls.
I think you're exactly right that maybe the refs look at McDaniel's athleticism and length and the defensive plays that he makes throughout the game. They just can't comprehend how athletic he really is and how
Yeah.
the defensive block or a steal is a clean play. But because he has that length, he makes those plays that maybe the refs aren't thinking is possible. But he is a special talent who can make a big difference for this team, who did at the beginning of the season before he's been out with sickness the last few games. Yeah, we need him back because he is a difference maker. And this year, he had been a difference maker on the offensive board. The way he drives to the basket, the way he had been shooting the three was vastly different than last year. And I was excited watching the first 2 weeks of the season, seeing him be an offensive force or just a more aggressive, I should say,
I
not
mean,
a
I'd call him an
force.
offensive force, not in the way that Cat or Ant,
Cat and ant.
or even Noel
Can't.
is.
Yeah.
Can't. Um, but he is an offensive force in his own way, and he was, like, really showing signs. I will
Yeah.
say that, like, it's a little concerning to me because, like, last year he got sick twice, and one of those times he lost like 12 pounds, and he's already skinny. And it's like, okay, so now you've been out for a week and a half. Like, what does this look like? Did you now lose 10 pounds? Are you going to get sick all the time? Are you taking care of your body? Are you eating Popeyes every night? What are you doing? Why are you getting
Uh,
sick? You
Anthony
know what I mean?
Edwards is eating Popeyes every night. It wasn't McDaniels.
I don't know. Do you know that? Like, sometimes the
Well,
skinniest people. I got a friend, Brian Polsky. He is one of the skinniest guys I know, and that he can just go to McDonald's and order 3 meals and eat it all, and it doesn't affect him. And I think McDonald's is one of those people. Like, if you saw the interviews when he's like a first and second season, he's like, "Yeah, I know I need to put on weight. I don't put on weight. I just melt it all off." With my angry, that just goes into his angry eyebrows and his fro.
dude's got some high metabolism. That's all there
Heck
is
yeah.
to it.
How
Uh,
about who's the guy? Brooks, Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks.
He had the worst hair in the NBA last season, and now he is doubled down.
Yeah, he doubled down on it.
It's absolutely abysmal. Like, there's no one even close. He's just, and it was nice for a Timberwolves fan who got kicked out of the playoffs by Memphis last year. He had a bad game. He did not play good tonight.
Did you find it funny that he got the technical and ejection at the end of the game?
I gave him the Dame Lillard.
Yeah.
Bye.
And then Ja followed him, but more to just jokingly say, like, I don't want to play in this stupid game anymore because the refs really did suck all game. But yes, I thought that was a funny end to the game. But at the beginning of the game, if you watch the beginning of the game before tip, they're all shaking hands. Dylan Brooks is not having any part of that. Like, he is I would classify him as an not nice player to the opposing team. Yeah,
he's a Tibbs, man. It's like you can't like that team. You gotta hate that team.
Yep, I get that.
It was funny. I mean, it was nice to see how scared Ja Morant was of Rudy Gobert, because that was talked about in the preseason before the preseason even started. They're like, the reason the Wolves picked up this guy is because Ja Morant had free reign to the rim at times last year in the playoffs.
Yep.
And to see him pull up for 6 foot, 12-foot floaters that he's not good at, good at all. Like, so many of them, I was like holding my breath and I was like, what am I doing? He didn't make that shot. He can't. That's not in his bag.
Yeah.
And he is full speed. He's not pull up and floater. And that's all Rudy. That's 100% Rudy. And so that was a good sign to see, because honestly, I hope we play Memphis in the postseason this year. I hope we play Memphis in the postseason for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Even if we lose to them in the postseason 2 more years in a row, it's only going to be sweeter when we beat them in the next third season. Like, that's what the NBA is made of. That's what sports are made of and are losing right now, is rivalries.
Yeah.
And like teams that genuinely both respect, hate, and love each other. And there was a good quote. I got to see if I can find it. Did you see the quote about what Ant said to T. Morant, Ja's dad?
No.
I got to find this.
I did notice at the end of the game, Anthony Edwards did his post-game court conference with I can't remember her name, but either way, he gave Katie Storm. Yes, that's right. He gave his post-game speech with her question and answer, and then afterwards he went to the sideline, signed a couple memorabilia things for fans, and then he gave Ja's dad a big hug, and they were having a ball. Like, I feel like the relationship there is like a mutual respect between not between Anthony Edwards and Ja Morant's dad, but Ja Morant to begin with. But I noticed Karl-Anthony Towns' dad was right next to him, so he was at the game watching it with Ja's dad, who I would imagine they are good friends or enjoy each other's company to watch a basketball game next to each other multiple times here in the last few seasons.
This is like the 9th time they've sat next to each other at games in the last 2 seasons, because we play them, 4 times a year, right? 3-4 times a year in the regular season, plus the postseason was a 6-game series. And those two sat next to each other every time.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great rivalry. The Memphis T-Wolves rivalry is strong. Used to be the Blazers, right? T-Wolves, that was the big rivalry, or Denver for a little bit. Yeah.
My heart.
And Portland is a tough team this year. They're playing out of their mind. They're back into it. But Right now, the Memphis T-Wolves rivalry is the spot to be for a T-Wolves fan, and I was happy to walk away with a win tonight. That was
I don't think
definitely
there's
good to
anyone
see.
that could say, like, I'm trying to think if there was, even from a outsider perspective, a more entertaining and fun playoff series last year than Wolves Grizzlies. Because I don't think there was one. I mean, there might be a couple close, but I'm failing to think of one that was more exciting than that playoff series. I mean, maybe the Mavericks run was exciting at times.
No, that
Um,
postseason series was awesome last year and
it was a
heartbreaking at the
roller
same time.
coaster almost every game, and it was cool. But G Money, I gotta go to bed. I gotta
No,
get that work again tomorrow.
I hear you. It is a late night. I appreciate you, man. I'm glad to get your input on the game
Glad to be
tonight.
here.
I'm really it was a fun win for the T-Wolves. It was a well needed win, statement game with Carl being out, and I am really excited to see where the team goes from here and who continues to step up and improve their play. So, thank you for giving us
Let's go
the
Wolves. Let's go Vikes.
Go Wolves. Go Vikings. Big game. Continue a good season. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll be back here with Talkin Twolves after the next game. Go Wolves, right? Go Wolves.
Go Wolves.
All right. Thank you, everybody.